Welcome to Common Unity. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Dr. Gabriel Lewis. And we are bringing the community together with a common unity.
This podcast. All right, the reason everyone's laughing is because Jason has done it again. Yes, we've got 10 minutes into this podcast and we weren't recording. So today I started this podcast saying this relationship's come about a little bit like Gabs and I through having beers at CBK and talking business. So Logan Dawson is our guest today. He's my new friend, and I've managed to drag him onto this podcast to tell him about his life. So we all know the stop go guy on the side of the road, and we drive past him every day, see them in the rain and go, "Oh, you poor sucker." Well, this guy's built quite a big company around it, and he's here to tell us about it today. So Logan, thanks for talking for 14 minutes for no reason. Please repeat yourself.
Fantastic. I'll give it my best. It's an honour to be here, and thanks for the introduction again there, mate.
Yeah.
It's,
not as romantic as the first one.
The first one was very romantic. I quite liked it. I was like, oh, that had a charm to it. But
yeah.
I might put that in the shorts.
Yeah, totally. No, it's great to be here, and thanks for inviting me along.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So where did the story start? I know you've got a big business, but tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so sweet. So basically we do, the company's called Road Safe Traffic Management, and we cover the whole Bay of Plenty and central Waikato. So we've got our head office here in Tauranga with another branch in Whakatane, one in Rotorua, and one that we opened up last year in Taupo. We basically supply the whole region, basically. The Bay of Plenty was really a diamond shape for us, or a triangle really as it is, and then Taupo came in and has enabled us to kind of capture a wider area.
So say, for example, if we're around the Bay of Plenty area and we've driven past a road management company, good chance it would have been yours. Yeah,
definitely. Particularly, I think Tauranga's got quite a lot of traffic management companies here, maybe 8 or 9 in total. Whakatane, I think, we're the only kind of prominent specific traffic management company there. And then there's a handful of other companies in Rotorua as well, in Taupo. So we do a lot of work on the eastern network, so basically all the state highways from Rotorua to Whakatane and up to past Apotiki and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So our range is quite far and wide, to be fair. We do heaps of stuff in Tauranga as well, and even just out the window there's a bit of road safe out there.
Excellent. You can check on the boys. I get back to work.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So I know that, like, with a big role, if you're looking out from the outside, it's a big company, and you didn't start it too long ago. No,
6 years ago. So in May this year, we just turned 6 years old. And it pretty much started, it started actually, me and my partner, we moved up here, and we had a little baby, and I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I was adamant to get out of Christchurch, right? So we'd kind of slaved away in Christchurch for a long time. Having a child kind of changed my view on life a little bit and about what my priorities were. Yep. And I'd thrown a few locations at Greta about where we wanted to go to. So she didn't want to move to China to start off with, so that was a problem. Because I thought if I moved to China, then I could have a go at anything, right? And then Singapore was out of the cards as well. And she moved back from Australia to live with me, so I couldn't convince her to move back to Australia. So as soon as I said Tauranga, she agreed, and I thought, well, that's great. And 4 weeks later, we kind of packed up everything, and I didn't really have a plan, to be honest, but I knew I was going to figure something out on the ride up here, and had about a 2-week holiday, kind of travelling around the top of the South Island and Lower North Island on the way here. Excellent. And during that holiday, decided to go back into traffic management.
So what made you make that decision? Just with the knowledge you had, or?
Well, I had a pretty significant amount of knowledge from my previous experience in Christchurch with the rebuild. I worked for a company down there, and we were probably the largest privately owned traffic management company down there that grew through the growth of the rebuild in Christchurch and the necessity to have all this traffic management. And we kicked ass. Like we really wiped the floor with everyone down there, to be honest, and took most of the work. So and we won the Canterbury I can't remember, the Business of the Year, one of the Business of the Year awards for Christchurch, which is huge, So we were really trying to change the face of the industry down there.
Well, I would have driven past your company down there.
Yeah.
Well, the company you're
That I work for.
managing,
Yeah, Men at Work.
So,
Yeah.
and especially in the CBD, if you were part of that.
Yeah, we were. We did most of the CBD. So we pretty much did all the CBD for all the. At one point, I think we had like 12 lane closures in the actual within the 4 Avs.
Oh wow.
And because we aligned well with Fletcher Infrastructure, and we did a lot for the other companies as well. But Fletcher's kind of kicked ass down there as well, and we jumped on board for that and provided a service that they enjoyed. Right, so.
Reliable, and they can
100%, yeah. Excellent. And we had to rebuild suburbs, you know, the underground sewer pipes and water pipes and all that. Everywhere had to be redone. Basically, the place was a mess, and that kind of had to get momentum pretty quickly. So we would work on suburbs at a time, the whole suburb, and they're pretty big down there.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
it's pretty spread out in Christchurch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they weren't that organised either at various times. You know, I think we did a few roads a few times, put pipes in again and again and again because they just weren't right.
The tremors though, or
yep, everything.
Because I put one in and then it'd be another tremor and then it cracks again. And
yeah, and I think there's an aspect, to be honest, with the whole rebuild of Christchurch. You've got a significant amount of work and a lack of skilled engineers. So you had a lot of freshies straight out of university coming in and controlling $10 or $100 million projects straight out the gate.
Yeah, book smarts, no life skill.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So there was the odd mistake there that they had to repair as well. But again, yeah, Christchurch was a huge opportunity to learn from, and push the industry forward.
So with the knowledge, it's still quite a big daunting role, because even when you think about building a business of traffic management, you think about the vehicles, the cones.
Yes. Shitloads of cones.
Shitloads of cones, actually. It's one of my questions.
Is that the big question?
This is the big question.
Big question.
Are you ready for it?
Oh, I don't know.
Are you ready for it?
Hold on,
Actually, it's 2 questions.
Hit me with it.
Okay, is orange your favourite colour?
Yeah, probably. To be honest, I like fluoro orange. Anything fluoro orange.
It should be.
Every time he sees an orange cone, he's like $5, $10, $50.
I'm real pedantic about the colour orange, because in all my branding, I'm like, I spend hours on it looking at it. Is this fluoro enough for me? Does this look like a road cone? And I'm not even lying. Like, it's true.
No, I believe it. It's a nice orange.
Yeah, it's pretty bright.
And my other question is, every time I've been driving down the motorway, I was like, because I've gone to Bunnings before and bought a cone, I was like, how much is the actual cost
Shitloads.
of a cone per cone? So if you're bringing in a container, so to speak.
Yeah, so we buy them at, I think when I started the company 6 years ago, we were buying them at about $23.50 plus GST a cone.
Holy moly.
And today's pricing, you're talking kind of 35 plus GST. Yeah, because they fluctuate to the price of oil, really, and supply and demand, right? So it's all imported from overseas, so there's shipping costs, and shipping costs in the last kind of 24 months have gone up probably 100%.
Yep. So even for the average person, that would have been pretty daunting, just the price of the cones.
Yeah.
It would have been a big gulp.
I ticked a lot of stuff up, to be honest, and I had good relationships with one of the largest suppliers in the country, so they let me kind of tick up 20 grand's worth of gear, which was enough to fill one truck of signs and cones, and then I managed to pay that off about 6 months later. So it took me a long time, and they persevered with me, and I still have a great relationship with that company's account manager. She's great. Her name's Virginia, by the way. Yeah. Some people might know her.
Great job, Virginia.
Yeah. She believed in me too, so that's the other thing.
Yeah, well, you've got to have that kind of belief system in yourself, and then if you're going to go for open a business, you're not going to go to fail. You know, you're not going to open it just to fail, just to see. You're going to really give it a good shot, and when you're backing that product, like I personally wouldn't go, hey, yeah, I'm good for it, and then just fail on a debt.
Totally. And when I think back at the start and I think about my kind of journey and what we did, there's 2 parts to it. One, I don't know if I would put myself in that position again, but 2, the only reason I am where I am now is because I had no other option. So I definitely find that when you're backed into a corner, when we moved to Tauranga, we had $1,400 in the bank. We had to pay $250 a week in rent. Formula was expensive, nappies were expensive, and food on the table. And we got very little assistance from Wins. I think they gave us $80 a week towards rent.
Based off your previous employment. So they're looking at what you used to earn. And
so kind of realistically, the move to come here and with that little amount of money and moving away from family, it was quite a risk. But it also put me into a position where I had no other option, right? I had a fiance that believed in me and a child to look after, and I truly believe when you're faced with situations in life where you've got no option but to go forward, it's almost the best position to be in, right? Because you can only go one way. You can't go backwards.
Well, you only fail when you stop trying.
You choose to go backwards, right? Yeah.
Like, you obviously would have felt quite similar when I had my first daughter, my only daughter, my first child. Like, I had to go to work just a few hours after she was born, and I had no regret or remorse. I actually had this, like, I was walking from the birthing centre with this huge purpose. Now I've actually got a reason to go to work.
Yes,
I assume it would have been much the same.
100%, yeah. So with our first child, I was actually working for my cousin's company, and his brother, my other cousin, who I'm going offshore tuna fishing with next weekend, I can't wait, he convinced me to take 2 weeks off, right? Because he had just had a child, and he said, you really need to take 2 weeks off. You can't just take 5 days off and come back to work. This is your first child kind of thing. So I was fortunate to do that and take that time off to spend with him. And, some births aren't as easy as others, so we had a few complications thereafter that meant that I was able to support my partner and whatnot. But, it gave me the drive to do things that I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because I had a purpose to do it, and I didn't want to kind of I had my own idea of what I wanted to be as a father, and to get to that point, I had to do certain things, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well done.
Money isn't happiness, but it gives you freedom. So you want to work towards those things. So you've got those options of having a day off and being there at the kids' rugby and all.
Totally.
All that. That was actually a big push for me. Going self-employed was one of the last jobs I said that I was in. Well, it was the last job I was in. I said one day, my son's rugby's on. He said, well, how long's that going to be? Sorry, no, it's rugby, it's cross country, was on. And he said, how long's that going to be? I said, it's going to be about an hour. I said, well, okay. Well, are you going to sort of like catch that time up?
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, it's an hour.
Yeah.
It's my son.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to be the boss of my own time. I need to make the choices for myself. And it was a big push for me going self-employed. It's like, I can't live like that for another 20, 30 years.
No.
Yeah, well, you miss out on a lot of opportunities and time. That's the only downside about my role is I don't have the flexibility of time.
Yes.
Because I have people booked out for a long
weeks in advance.
So it's a bit hard for me to just go, hey, see you guys if something pops up.
Yeah.
But
I definitely think there's a huge benefit, right? But I think to reiterate kind of, when you start a business, you got to put everything into it, right? And for the first few years, I think personally, even though I did this for my first son, well, for my whole family, not my first son as such, but my first son missed out on the first 6 months. We got to spend a lot of time together, and then when he was 1 onwards is when the business started to take shape. So I missed out on a lot of stuff there, and then our second child, I probably missed out more as well. So he's nearly 4. So 4 years ago kind of thing, 3 to 4 years ago.
Big growth
it was
period.
super committed and super daunting and all this other stuff going on in the business, and it was growing out of control. I think in our third year we doubled inside, and it might have been second year we doubled, third year we grew 8 times what we were within 12 months, and then we tripled the following year kind of thing. So those like real extreme growth points were kind of those times where I definitely missed out on that time with the children.
Yeah. So are you at a space now where you can take a step back?
100%. Yeah. I've got heaps of flexibility. I've got a great team under me that lead the business forward. It's funny, I was meeting with a client last night, and he said to me, how much time is it true what they say about owning a business, that you have all this flexibility? And I said, to be honest, it is, because everything's under your control. it all depends on what you want to put into it, right? But you've got to actually, for every great reward comes a sacrifice. So you put a lot into the business, there's going to be a small sacrifice here somewhere, but in the long term, that's going to kind of put you in a position where you can actually spend time with people.
Yeah. And people need to remember a business is not self-employed. So I'm self-employed. In a lot of ways you are, because if we don't show up physically ourselves, we don't earn the dollar.
Yep.
Whereas now you're in a business, you've got staff under you, that means that you can go on holiday for 3 weeks and your business should take over as if you were there. So that's been that growth period for you. Mm-hmm. If I take 2 weeks off, I'm just going to be stressed because I'm burning money, not making it while I'm away.
Yeah, the business will continue, will always will run. But something that I've kind of really noticed in the last couple of years is that, I kind of came out of like a heavy period where I'd put a lot of time in and my family were sacrificed by spending time with them. And I was always I was at home, but I wasn't really at home, right? So I'm constantly thinking, my mind's super active, and I was constantly thinking about the business and the problems and things like that. Probably more so the problems than anything. I wasn't present, right? I was there, but I wasn't there.
Yep.
And so I've worked really hard over the last kind of 2 years to really kind of ensure that while I'm at home, I'm home and present, so that I'm not actually sitting there on my laptop. And I hate doing it now at home. I hate working from home because the kids don't get it. They just want to hang out with dad, right? And when you're working and the kids are around, it's really hard to focus. So you don't want to engage with them in anything.
Well, you end up resenting your children and your family, because I'm the same, right? This office we're in right now, without that, I was going crazy. I was at home, the kids, I'd see the kids off school, I'd work all day, then the kids would get home, and then I'd be cooking dinner or something. I'm like, man, you're all up in my face. And I know it's because I hadn't left the house, or I hadn't gone out and had other adult interaction. And I feel sorry for a lot of stay-at-home mums and stuff, because it's what they're faced with, right?
Yeah.
The reality is that your home becomes a prison for you.
Yeah.
So then
and they don't necessarily choose that pathway either, right?
Yeah.
So they don't choose to be a prisoner in their own home because they've got kids.
Correct, yeah. So you're sitting there and, you're working, and you're like, okay, I've got like 3 hours worth of work, and it might be school holidays, and it's like, yeah, cool, I can be at home so my kid's not on childcare. But you're just telling them to watch TV or something while you're working, and you're there, and they'd actually would have had more fun in childcare.
Yeah.
But as a parent, we're going, it's so good that I can be there for them. Well, that's not really that impactful, them being on the TV. They would have been better off in childcare.
Yep.
But we've got to retrain ourselves to actually think what's best for them, where are they going to get the most impact, the most learning and stuff.
Oh, totally. And society's changed, right? It's a convenience to everyone to look at daycares and put their children into daycares. I think there's definitely... our children have thrived in daycares. We've had really good daycares. We've also had the first one had been in a couple of daycares that weren't so good, and probably weren't really. They probably didn't want to put the effort in with their first son, who's quite full on, but they just didn't really harness his energy the right way. So now he's actually at school, but there's. I think daycares can at times get used for the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah. Well, it's quite fun. My son Maddox, he's full noise.
Yeah,
he's full noise.
Awesome.
And I think people start to realise like the parents' personalities as well.
Yes.
We're pretty easygoing and everything. And when we pick him up, they're like, oh, Maddox just got one speed. He's just go. And I was like, and then I turned to Maddox, you've been using your super speed. And he's like, yeah.
Dash.
So cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Incredible and Dash over here.
Awesome.
It's pretty funny, but it's cool when you've got a space that kind of honours the child's kind of natural leaning.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it comes down to, I guess, from my experiences in Tauranga with daycares is the staff. It's all the staff. We were at a daycare that had a huge turnover of staff, like a full 100% turnover of staff, and you could see outcomes with children, and including ours, where things were happening that weren't okay. And it was kind of like, you've got to find the right one, and there's a lot out there that have, teachers that are there that actually want to be there, and that's the difference, right? Is the ones that want to be there versus the ones that are there just because they're getting a job.
Well, it shows from the top down, like any business. So I guarantee you've probably got a pretty low turnover of staff.
Me?
Yeah.
We do now. We definitely have had high turnovers. So like probably over the last 6 years, I reckon I've probably employed 300 plus people in the whole region.
Yeah. Is that from the managerial kind of side of things or from
both? Both, I think. I think definitely. So at the start of the business, one thing that's really hard to kind of adapt to and evolve is an evolving business, right? So when there's huge growth, there's lots of learnings, there's lots of things that are coming in that you've got to kind of react to and try and put something in place to manage the field staff. Traffic management's not necessarily an industry that people really put their hands up to go and work in, right? It is definitely changing, and we're trying to change the face of that now because it's a great industry with huge career opportunities. And you can earn a lot of money as well. So, I think that's a great aspect about the role. But you get we get different demographics and all sorts coming in, and we give just about anyone an opportunity, right? So our kind of key things are pretty simple. Drug-free is one. Don't drink alcohol at work.
Yeah.
If you can do those two things, we can help mold and guide you into a career that's actually you can be earning anywhere plus $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right, within a year, right, 2 years, if you're willing to do the hard mahi, right? So
the guys are doing big hours, obviously, because we drive past them day and night.
Yes, they do. So a lot of the people don't realise that we actually start way before the contractors start. So if a contractor wants to be on the road by 7 o'clock, our guys are probably in at 5:30 to drive to site, which could be half an hour to an hour away, and then it's half an hour to an hour for them to set up so that those contractors can roll in there at, say, 7 o'clock.
So you'd be governed, because you've got trucks as well, by 14 hours a day for your
100%,
stuff?
yeah.
So do you have to run 2 shifts, like someone places stuff, someone picks it back up at the end of the day, or most?
No. So we just run off that. So basically we work really hard to make sure that none of our staff exceed 14 hours and don't go over 70 hours in a week and don't have any less than 10 hours as a stand down. And we run that across the whole board. So that's just for your drivers and things, but it's everyone can be fatigued by the same thing. So it doesn't matter whether you're driving or you're not driving. Those guys that are on the road that aren't driving and might work a 13-hour shift, that they still have to drive home at the end of the day, right? So it's an easy one for us to kind of manage.
Like we spoke about earlier, sometimes the person on the phone is going to be more fatigued than the person working physically, because that mental drain is, your whole body's tired, everything's exhausted versus just got sore legs and a back from walking around all day. Totally,
and even like some of the field staff, they have roles where they don't actually have to do a lot for the day. Their kind of work is in the morning on setup or at pack up at the end of the day, but then they might have 10 hours in between where they might be standing on a stop-go paddle. And it's quite hard to do that for a whole 10 hours, There's a lot that goes into that, and keeping your brain active and whatnot,
Yeah, I remember a job I was doing, I just had to spray a field of water to stop the dust, and it was so
I think that was your parents just trying to get you out of the house, mate.
It was so mind-numbingly dull that it was so hard to pay attention.
Yeah, and like we've got our age groups range from probably 18 to late 60s. So everyone handles that downtime real differently. But we encourage a few different things to try and keep people active and swap them around and things like that. So it's just kind of
always do the 2-finger wave. Not that way. But they always kind of pay attention and kind of go, hey, it's quite cool.
Well, they have to, right? Because they're there to save lives. That's all they're there to do. The role that we do, whether people see that or not, is to stop the contractor from getting hit by a car.
Yeah. So you say that, have you had that happen? Have you had contractors hit while your cones and stuff are out? Obviously some people speed through roadworks and stuff.
No, I don't think we have. We've had incidents with, we deal with the risk for us is getting hit by a car, right? So, again, we've had lots of things happen in the business over the last few years, and we are on a daily basis surrounded by a huge variety of different drivers. Right, so we've got the ones that speed through the work site. We've got the ones that are drugged. We've got the ones that are drunk. We've got the ones that shouldn't even be driving. We've got the blind ones that don't even see the stop-go people, right? and everyone's so impatient. So they're so much in a rush to get from A to B. When they get stopped for a brief moment of time, they get really aggressive, right? So the team in the fields and all traffic management, they have to put up on a daily basis with shit that most people don't realise. Bottles getting thrown at their heads and things like that, all because of course a little inconvenience for someone, which is disgusting, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone complains when the roads are in a bad condition, but when we try to fix them, which we just do the traffic management for the contractor who's fixing the road, they complain about that too. So it's
like, don't shoot the messenger.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So they're faced with a lot of adverse conditions with public on a daily basis. From aggressive people, but because we cover, I think last year our fleet covered 1 million kilometres across the Bay of Plenty, all our utes and trucks. So it's a significant amount of driving. The biggest risk to us is actually not us; it's everyone else. And we've had several incidences where our fleet just driving in their own have been crashed into by other vehicles because of their drink driving or things like that, because we operate 24/7, you see, and in some pretty tough areas, especially kind of further out past Whakatane and things like that.
Yeah, my years of sales, I was doing 65,000 Ks a year, and I'd probably have 3 near head-ons a year.
Yeah,
and that's why as soon as I went self-employed and I could start buying my own cars, I was like 5-star.
Yeah,
all
100%.
the safety features, because my family, one day that could be me and the family.
Yeah,
someone crosses that line at us. So
we put a lot of safety features into the trucks, especially the real big ones, simply because if a real bad incident was to happen, it's really hard to understand what happened and why it happened, unless we have footage. That's if the driver's been unconscious or something.
And unfortunately, the trucks are always in trouble. You look at anything. I'm in the heavy transport industry, so I was like, car accident with the truck.
Yeah.
Truck was at fault.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Probably 1 in 30 might be the truck at fault.
Yeah.
In reality, it's normally a car's crossed the line or whatever it might be.
Totally.
The truck might be on the other side of the road because his car was coming across the line on the left because they were asleep, so he swerved the opposite way.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. But yeah. And that's where cameras are so important. Everyone's going, it's a police officer in the cab.
Yeah.
Saves your own ass, mate, when the
it does. Happens. It does. And we need to study and learn how these things happen and why they happened. The reality is, that the biggest problem out there is driver education and awareness. It's terrible. I travel heaps in between the branches every week, right? And I see so much stuff happening that shouldn't be happening, and they're done by people that you can kind of tell that they don't have the experience of driving or the speeds that they're travelling. But yeah, it's a dangerous situation for a truck driver to be in when you see cars passing them on blind corners and things like that, And this is, this impatient thing with people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, lifetime of misery.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I still remember the number plate, iLotus.
Yeah.
Some of the worst overtaking I've ever seen in my life. I was like, my heart went into my throat when I heard it. Yeah, so what's some of the mindset that you kind of work on? Because obviously if you're there to manage a team, you've got to kind of have quite high communication skills.
Yes, yeah. Mindset. So I guess over the years my mindset's changed a lot as the business has grown and as we faced certain situations or problems that have arisen in the business. My mindset is very much around solutions based. You have to be solutions based for what we deal with. So we have maybe 200 to 300 clients around the whole region that we work for. They all do different stuff. So we get faced with different situations where we don't know, we can't categorize what the solution is straight away. So we have to work through it, or it might be a resourcing issue, or it might be a team culture issue. The culture might be getting a bit poisonous, or the delivery hasn't been as good as what it is and isn't going in the right direction, or the service isn't where I want it to be, and things like that. So for me, I'm a very solutions-based kind of person. So I look at the situation. What is the situation? What are the kind of components that have led to this situation being where it is? And trying to really understand the why, as cliche as that is.
Yeah, no, but if you don't understand the why, how can you come up with a good avid workable solution.
Totally. Yeah, and then just kind of work through it, right? So we know what the outcome is that we want to achieve with our clients. We just have to sometimes design the pathway to get to that outcome. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Can we just rewind? So
Yep.
you're talking about, obviously you moved to Tauranga, you decide you're going to go into traffic management once again. What was that process? How did you win your first contract so you can get started? Because it's one thing making that mind, but then you had to go and find the work. So how did you get started?
The mindset thing was really interesting. So I didn't want to get into traffic management again when I left Christchurch because it had been so hard on me learning. Like an operations role in traffic management is pretty bloody complicated. Like there's lots of moving parts. Everyone expects everything now and so forth, and you've got to deliver this with teams of people. So when I had a child, I thought, that's me. I'm done in this industry. It's too stressful. I spend too much time in it. And I was driving along on our way to Tauranga, and it's kind of like a moment where it's all fair and well having confidence that we were moving to Tauranga and I was going to figure it out. But then the moment came on the drive up here where I thought, shit, what the fuck am I going to do? as my beautiful fiance sitting there in the car and the baby's in the back, and that pressure of actually realizing that shit, actually there's more than just me. I've got to come up with something or I'll get a job or something. And then I still there's a few things I vividly remember. So there's that panic moment of going, shit, what am I going to do? And then this light shone on me in the window and I was like, fuck, why don't I just give traffic management a crack? Like I know how to do it. It'll get me across the board. It'll be a good step up to doing the next thing that I want to do. And so that's what I thought I would have a go at.
Did you think at the time that you might use like the parts that you didn't like to try and improve the whole system so it made it more workable for yourself?
We want to change the industry for the better. 100% we want to change the perception of the industry and improve safety out there. That's kind of like our core focus, but it's still, everything's quite manual, so how we operate is still quite a physical, manual, labour intensive job.
Yep.
The revenue that the business makes is generated by feet on the ground and wheels turning. We definitely constantly look at efficient ways and how we do things and what we're going to do to do it differently. But I guess when I first came to Tauranga, the real kicker for me was I'd seen how things were getting done here, and it was way behind the times, right? And the delivery of what I could see people receiving wasn't really that good, so I thought to myself, I'd come from Christchurch and we were fortunate to have they had an organisation called SCRT, which was, I can't actually remember what each letter stands for, but it was the kind of over-encompassing body for the government that controlled all the major organisations on the rebuild, but they were super health and safety intensive, right, across everything. So they brought our standards up, and when I came here with that kind of typical delivery of how we do things and saw what was happening in this region, I thought there's probably a good opportunity here for me to show you how it's done, kind of thing. So that's how we kind of got into it. And
so from there, did you go to probably not Downers, they're probably opposition, but you went to Tauranga City Council or something?
Yeah.
Told them your experience.
So I had to kind of find a vehicle first. So I managed to get a loan off somebody to buy a truck. And then that truck needed to be kind of kitted out, so I convinced an engineering firm in town to cut me some sign racks and some things, and I said, can I pay you in 3 months? And they said yes. I was like, that's cool. And then I ticked the gear up, the traffic management gear up, and did that, and then I got the sign writing once I kind of figured out what the company was going to be called. And then I just went door knocking. Yeah, for ages, no one wanted to borrow me, to be fair. In fact, it was really challenging. It was probably the hardest part of the business is to get that first job done. Yep. This town I found super, I came from a town where we all worked together for the same common goal to get the same outcomes. But in this town, it was quite closed door. And, I'm quite confident in kind of pursuing that a bit further. So I would then try again until I kind of would get somewhere, and fortunately there was a situation where, again, another one of these things I remember standing at the kitchen bench watching my fiance and child kind of playing on the ground and realising, like, what the fuck have I done, because I've got no work and we've got no money now and we can't pay rent this week, and I think we managed to scramble some money together for some formula, borrowing money off my parents or something. And then my phone rang, and it was Fulton Hogan, and they're like, "Shit, we've got a situation. Can you take over this job for us?" And it was the Tauranga big roundabouts when they kind of formed the 2 roundabouts where BP is.
Yes.
I was like, "How? Yes, I'll be there. You know, when do you want? I'll come there now." And he's like, "Oh no, it's all right. Just be there in the morning at like 5:30 or something." And that was a real kind of kickstarter for me, because
that's a big company too.
Yeah. So I was able to just wait in the background until someone needed me. Though it came to like a pivotal point where it was like, before that phone rang, I was thinking, oh man, tomorrow I'm going to have to get a job. And I knew, because I had all the qualifications already and they're in such high demand in the traffic industry, that I could just go walk into my competition and say, give me a job. But fortunately, thanks Terry, he rang me and said, can you take over? And I did. And so that kind of kick-started me off at a nice wee hourly rate of, it might have been like $35 or $40 an hour plus just. You do that for 12-hour days, 5 days a week. That was my rent paid. That was the food. That was the nappies. That was all that stuff.
And was it just yourself?
Yep.
Yeah,
just me. And I rolled into that work site and they were like, who the fuck is this guy? For starters, because I was slick, right? And I had all the shiny gear. And I was like, right, this is how we're going to do it. And they're like, all standoffish from me, because again, I came from this area where in Christchurch where this is how it rolled. And then within about 24 hours, by the second day, I had the whole construction site running the way that we needed them to run in regards to traffic management. So instead of them just kind of doing what they wanted, they did what I wanted and how we needed to do it for Fulton Hogan's sake and for the compliance sake.
So you're managing their staff, so $35,
just in
$40 was
how
cheap.
we operate the traffic management. So heaps of rules around how that works. But pretty much. But that started me off, right? So that gave me a boost.
It's funny how life often works like that, though.
Crazy
like when
awesome.
Your back's against the wall and you're like, "Jeez, I just don't know how the hell." Like, I had this big opportune moment. Actually, I was like, it was quite funny. Actually, I had this big thing about buying myself this pair of boots, R.M. Williams boots. I was like, no, I can't buy myself a pair of R.M. Williams boots.
Yeah.
People are going to think I earn too much money, which I don't, and all this stuff. And I just like quality, not quantity.
I say the same thing.
And the funny thing was, I kind of was like, you know what? If somebody's got an issue with it, it's their issue.
Yeah.
Okay. And that same day, I kind of went out and bought them. I had these calls from this other different places and a whole pile of new patients that just paid for itself.
Oh,
so it was like funny how the world.
It is.
I was like, I can't spend that kind of money. That's a bit extravagant.
We had this. I had this credit card. It might have been like a GE. Is it GE or GE credit card or something? Right then at the business. So I didn't have really many clothes. So I went out and brought on a credit card at Farmers like a full kit of like pants and shirts and shoes and spent like $800, right? Stupid decision. It seemed at the time, but the image I wanted to present was that level of professionalism, right? Because I knew I had the goods and I could deliver the goods. I just had to convince other people. And if I waltzed in shabby, they're going to be like,
You only got one chance at a first impression, right?
Yeah, that's
You
it.
can walk in there looking rough as all hell, and they go, look you up and down and go, no, mate, I'm good.
Yeah.
Or you walk in there and they go, oh, who's this guy? Has he come to sell me insurance?
Yeah.
Oh, no, he wants to do my road management?
Yeah.
Wow.
So for 12 months, I had like my meeting clothes that just came on when I would go for a meeting, and they'd come off as soon as I came out of the meeting, and that was it.
Before you spilt coffee on them. And
They were looked after.
Well, it reminds me of the story of my father, actually. My dad was a construction worker in Christchurch.
Yes.
Back in the day, he used to ride a bike to work with a trolley on the back with all his tools, and he couldn't get a job because nobody would hire him.
Yeah.
And then happened to have a builder. It was like, okay, well, I need a little fence done just there, just a temporary one, just real basic, just do it and whip it up. And he did it like a finishing fence, like finishing product, miter cuts and everything. And then he wasn't doing the donkey jobs. He was actually doing all the finishing work, and he finally got an opportunity. Whereas if he just did just a normal job where you just like yourself, if you just bought a T-shirt and slapped a thing on it, it wouldn't have had the same effect.
100%. Like presentation's everything, right? So, and I try to drive this into my kind of leadership management team and the business as well. So the presentation of the business to me is super important because it's a first impression situation, right? The staff as well, you know, I try and guide them in kind of my learnings and what works and what doesn't work. First impressions are huge.
Oh, I can say I've never seen...
And trying, perseverance, consistency.
Yep. I can definitely say I've never seen your trucks dirty.
Yeah.
And I've never seen Leo. He always looks very handsome.
Yeah. He's a good looking dude.
He is a good looking dude.
He thought you were cheating on him when I said to him tonight. I said, I'm going to do a podcast. He goes, what the fuck? I said, yeah, with Gabs, your chiropractor. And he goes, no way. And he just I left him stunned as I walked out of the office.
He's like, why is Gabriel interviewing you?
Yeah. What's going on here? But he's a prime example of what we just talked about, right? So this is a guy that's been a fundamental part of RoadSafe from the get-go. I've convinced him to move over from Australia at the start because this industry was quite immature in this region, and there was limited skilled staff in it, right? So, there was limited staff available, and I knew what I needed to help me, but I couldn't find that locally, and I knew that he knew the industry as well as I did. So, when he moved over, we kind of kicked it into gear, and it started its big journey, right? But that's a prime thing, right? So. Yeah. He's always pretty slick.
Yeah. So, did you have any hesitation when you said like you've grown it exponentially each year? Did you have a lot of hesitation in order to achieve that from the team when you were growing it?
No, they fucking loved it.
Epic.
Yeah. And then I think, you know, the core starting team, and there's a few like sad things in our journey I find is that I had this core group of people, and most of them don't work for me anymore through one thing or another. I find that growth, people really struggle with growth, and as the business evolves, it has to kind of meet certain expectations, and it has to have certain policies and procedures, and I kind of seen that the business had kind of lost a bit of personalisation and become a bit more commercial versus where it was, and probably didn't meet the...
Yeah, gone from a small family to a
corporate,
essentially.
So most of the original staff, except for Leo, don't work for me anymore. A couple, one does, but yeah, I often think back on that and think about that journey for them as well. So they came in when it was in my garage, right, and then we moved to a commercial property, and then it's the company had a whole nother branch that they never knew, and then the company doubled and all that stuff, and it became quite hard for them to kind of transition, I think.
So talking on that, obviously you had your first job with Fulton Hogan. How long was it till you employed your first staff member?
Probably a year. Yeah.
So you grafted it for a year on your own?
Yeah. I used temps at the start, so I built a relationship with a temping agency to kind of supply me with the ideal staff. You know, I waltzed into the temping agency, said I'm going to be this and that, give me your best staff. Yeah. And I still have a fantastic relationship with that company now. First Call Recruitment, who are great in the region that we've used them in.
Yep. And then from there, okay, so you took on your second staff member or your first staff member outside of yourself in 1 year.
Yep.
So in the next 5 years, you've grown to how many staff?
There'd be 75 to 80 in there at the moment.
Wow.
We're still 30 short, so if anyone's looking for a job, I'm willing to give you an opportunity.
We'll put the details below.
30 more people real fast.
Yeah, we'll put his contact details.
Just no alcohol or drugs.
Yeah, you got to be drug-free. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of, So again, that's a big kind of standout difference to us is we don't, we've got a real big policy around drugs and alcohol. Obviously, all companies say that they're drug and alcohol free. We work very hard to make sure that we're drug free.
Yep. So from there you got 75, 80 staff, but you also started with one truck. So you really got some finance companies on board at some point, because how many trucks you got now? Or trucks, cars, utes, what's your
trucks,
plant?
I think. And 25 utes, I think.
Yeah. Wow. It's a lot of
It's quite a lot, yeah. Had a great finance broker who also believed in me as well. So
I believe in people. Just we're not going to plug him today. But nice, whoever you are, well done.
You've you've got to have people on your team, you know, if they're batting for you,
100%.
You've got to believe for you. And that's just
there's been a lot of doubters around me, right? So, you know, even moving my little family up here, a lot of people were like, why are you doing this? And it's like, oh, well, fuck, I've got no other option. I've got to do something. Put me in a situation where I've got no other option to move forward and see what I can do. But then when you establish the business, you know, there's been a lot of doubts and criticism. You know, you're a company, there's well-established traffic management companies here that probably didn't really like me coming into town and doing what I did. But I'd like to think we can build those relationships further.
Yeah.
I've got this philosophy with regards to it. It's got so much cake in the tin, so to speak. You don't have to be kind of like, oh no, if they're doing well, they're taking from me.
Yeah.
Just do a great job. You know, I've got this thing, like I don't care that it's got a chiropractor just down the road from me.
Yeah.
I couldn't care if they're next door.
Yeah.
That chiropractor is going to be better suited for other clients.
Yeah, totally.
That I'm not better suited for, and then other clients going to be better suited for me. So I've just got that philosophy.
Yeah, totally. I think, you know, like when in the growth and things like that, you get accustomed to certain things like clients and having lots of clients and things like that. But really, I think the one thing that I've kind of learned in my journey is honestly just being a good bugger gets you a long way. In fact, it probably gets you further than anything else. And if you just do that and keep that consistent, you'll go a long way, and no matter what you do, because everything's relationships. You know, like people don't come back to you, Gabriel, if you didn't talk to them, right? They come back to you not only for your skill, but because they have a good conversation, engaging conversation.
I'd like to think it's my dad jokes, but
yeah, it could be your dad jokes.
I've got a button for that somewhere. Where is it?
Yes,
that's so cool.
First time I've used a button. How you like that?
Awesome. Okay, it's so good.
Anyway,
I want one of those for my office.
Just hit push the button. So if you were telling yourself some advice from 6 years ago of you starting the business, what would you tell yourself? Or what advice would you give yourself?
So giving myself advice 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
Probably not to be so hard on yourself. And things always work out, right? I'm a firm believer, like if you just keep putting one foot ahead of the other in everything that you do, it generally works out, right? And you know, you've just got to get through to the next day, right? So I've been faced with heaps of stressful situations that have taken a real big toll on me, probably in the early years of the growth. From people letting me down or shitting on me or burning me or whatever they've done, and trying to learn how to process that was quite hard, and especially mentally.
Not take it personally. Yep.
Yeah, it's very hard not to take things. I still struggle a little bit now to not take things personally, because I want to protect the people that I have working for me as well. So if anyone gets real kind of like I'm very much, there's two sides to every story. So to say anything back to myself 6 years ago is to just do your best, try your best, and try not to let it overwhelm you with the problems that are going to be faced. You know, every day you're going to get faced with problems in any business, and the magnitude of those problems will vary. But they're just problems, and you just got to find a solution for them and then work through it, and then you solve it, and then you move on from it, and then the next day something else fucking happens and you're like, fuck.
You don't fail until you stop trying.
That's it, you know, and try not to get caught up in each individual problem, right? So, you know, I just say, I was telling someone yesterday, you know, like in business, you're always going to be faced with problems, and it doesn't matter what the problem is, right? Because that's just a given. You know, like you're going to always be faced with an issue, and you just have to solve it. And when you solve it, move on to the next one, you know, and that's not something to necessarily be afraid of or anything. It's just, if you can be more welcoming to these problems, every problem or mistake that happens is a learning opportunity for you to kind of go, hey, well, I figured that out, so I kind of look at all my problems now and think, well, it's just the bigger picture for me. It's just the universe trying to teach me how to actually
navigate something.
Yeah, because 6 years ago I was a fucking boy, right? There's nothing you can give me now that won't faze me. Like there's not one situation that I probably haven't had from staff in their personal lives trying to help them to business things and things like that.
Yep. Now, taking it a little one step further, what's some advice you'd give your younger self?
You don't be a pussy.
Very controversial in 2022.
Yeah. So I think back. So I was 28 when I started this business. I say that, but the reality is I had to go through my other journey in the other business to get to where this is. But really, people are so risk adverse, right? They don't want to take risks. And I was probably a bit like, I always had a lot of ideas, a lot of business ideas. As a bloody 10-year-old, I'd have books of business ideas and inventions and things like that. And it took me till I was 28 to actually fucking do it. Like, what have you got to lose, right? Now is the time to try and have a go at something. If you start with nothing, you don't lose anything, right?
But you've lost an opportunity if you don't
you've got
try.
so much to gain, so you can get so far ahead in anything that you choose to do. And it's probably quite easy for me to say that, but back yourself. Give yourself some confidence and believe in yourself. And if no one else believes in you, that doesn't matter. As long as you believe in yourself and do what you want to do, experiment, have a crack at a business.
I'm glad you learnt that at a young age, at 28. So I, even recently when I started going, did my real estate license to start brokering business sales, I started saying to myself, who am I to tell these like 50, 60-year-olds how to run their business and how to exit it? Like, what's my experience? And then I had to look in the mirror for a minute and go, actually, I've been in the transport industry for 20 years.
Totally.
I might not be 60 years old, but they might have only been in that industry for 5 years. It might have been something new they came to. I've got 20 years of life experience in the industry across various different roles.
Yes, yeah.
I do actually know one or two things about the industry. I don't know it all. No one does. There'll always be someone that's better than you, but I'm willing to give it a go and I'm willing to work my ass off for you.
Yeah.
So it's taking that step. Yeah,
100%. And that's the first step to take is always the hardest. And everyone that, I've got a guy that works for me and I was talking to him the other night and there's some things going on in his personal life. And I like to try and guide these younger guys. Because I'm a bit of a pusher. I'll push you because if I think you can do it, I'm going to push it because no one else is fucking pushing you. So I like to see, just
get the best out of
100%. Yeah, totally. And I see guys that come into the group of into our teams in the business. They're shy, timid guys. They come out like these monsters, and it's so cool to see. In a good way, monsters. They have confidence and they're now talking to people and strangers and things like that. Where they would shy away from that stuff, but this young guy that I was talking to, he wanted wants to go over to Australia and into the mines, and I thought that was great. And I said, well, when are you going to do it? And he said, in about 15 years' time. I said, what the fuck? Yeah. Why?
All the greenies, there won't be any mines then.
Time to get my licenses. I'm like, oh man, and in my head I'm like, well, I don't have the time now, but I need to sit down with you and just kind of go a bit deeper into who you are and kind of understand why you don't back yourself that much, because everyone's got the same ability to do something, right? At the end of the day, no matter who you are, where you've come from, I don't want to hear why you are where you are now, because that's all part of the whole plan for you. It's about having a goal and going for it, and trying not to let all the blockers come up and stop you from getting there, which is huge, and the worst one, we're the worst ones to ourselves, right?
We are, but we're also very good at taking information from someone who's never done it. So, I'm going to start a business. Oh, you don't want to do that. That's risky. Yeah. Oh, cool, bro. So how many businesses you owned? I've never owned a business. It's too risky.
Yeah.
So don't tell me not to own a business. I'm going to talk to that person over there. How'd your business go? Oh, the first 3 years were really hard, but then I got some staff on. We gained a big contract. Yeah, it's worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Well, often the people who's closest to you will often tell you that you can't do it because they feel comfortable enough to tell you that you can't do it. I 100%
agree with that, and that was my one of my first experiences when I moved.
But they won't be supporting you through it. And then the thing is, you've got to realize and be okay with once you do achieve it and prove them wrong, not from a point of an ego place, just the fact that you knew it would go, you're very lucky.
Yeah.
Just be okay with that too, because my wife's going to be navigating that.
Oh, I really appreciate you getting dinner for us, and man, you've been lucky over the last few years.
There's no such thing as like everything's hard work, right? And it's the dedication and the commitment to the cause is my kind of ethos on the whole thing. I'm again a true believer that anyone's capable of anything. I've seen things happen in my own journey where one day I'd love to write a book about the experience and the things and the situations that have piqued me in stress and things like that, only to have them work out for the better within 24 hours. And it's kind of like, geez, these things are bizarre.
So 90% of what you worry about never actually happens, right? All this anxiety, I'm going to make this phone call or whatever it might be, and you work yourself up over it. The longer you give yourself, the longer, the more the anxiety and stuff builds up, and it gets too hard, and I'll put it off till tomorrow. Yeah. You just get on the phone, you're like, oh, that was cool.
And there's things like, there was one I can't quite remember, I used to use a lot in my head to kind of process saying, well, how will I feel about this in 5 hours, 5 months, and 5 years' time? And pretty much if it doesn't get into that 5-year category, don't give it the time that it needs. Yeah. But you also have to have a little bit of stress as well to get yourself to that result, to push to that result. If you're not stressed and nervous about something, you don't really, there's a potential that you don't care about it as much as what you should. So the more you care about it, the more you're going to worry about it. But you've got to use that energy to kind of feed yourself into the right...
fuel it, because the body doesn't know any difference between excitement and fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to go, okay, this is my body's experiencing this. Let's shift that pattern. Okay, obviously my body's excited. Let's go perform. Rather than kind of be startled and stand still. Yeah.
I'm a big one for we have a lot of meetings and the teams and things like that, and we've just got this new kind of campaign going on at the moment with all our staff in the fields, and I've called them, everyone's a leader in the business, right? And it's a bit more of an intimate catch up with me and the field staff versus the ops managers and the general manager and the field staff. And I fucking love it. I come away from these catch ups with these guys, I'm like pinging, like these guys are so engaged. I'm getting more out of them. They're small group meetings. We're going to get some motivational speakers in there, some life coaches, notable people and other managers of the business in different regions in there to talk to them, to just try and keep the momentum going. But
I've got to say that part of even my sales career, going to conferences, that's always the most I took away from it. Yeah, I've heard some incredible motivational speakers, and that's possibly what's got me to this stage and enjoying this kind of platform and stuff, is wanting to get stories out. It's the stories that I've heard over the years that have impacted my life, and that came through a job.
Yes.
And to be able to provide that for your staff, just to give them that little, you get that little kickstart, and they're like, you know what, the next couple of weeks you'll see a peak in their performance. They'll feel incredible over it, and then it's just keeping that going through systems or your HR or whatever it may be.
Because and the reason why I was saying is I often go to these catch-ups and I don't need to prepare for them. I just be me, because I know what the outcome is that I'm going for, and I know that I just need to tell the truth. This is why I want to see you guys, is because when I started this business, I had the control in how I wanted everything to be. And as different managers and people have come in, things have changed. But I'm now going to teach you about why we are where we are here now, and the journey that we're going to take now.
Yeah.
Well, if people understand the history and the knowledge, they can respect it. Like I work for Nike head office, and
awesome.
That would be cool. Big part of it was just understanding the history of Nike, going back to the core roots.
Yeah.
Okay, so selling shoes out of the van, the first sneaker with the first sole, all those things. So then you're part of the process, even though you weren't there. Yeah, you were there, and you're part of that journey. Okay, now I'm part of this part of the journey in the timeline, and then you're part of a bigger being than just yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, eh? Like, and the business, I often refer to RoadSafe as a business that's like a big tumbleweed rolling down a hill, and I'm running behind it trying to slow it down, because it becomes something that's bigger than you. But the best outcomes that you can get for your people, performance-wise, I find, is having them understand how it all happened, why it happened, and who you are as the owner, right?
And the core philosophy.
Yeah. And so, because that's so pure in me, it's so much easier for me to talk about, right? But when you try and have other managers and different parts of the business try and create that with those staff, that the outcome's never going to be as good as what is it is as if it was done by me.
Yeah.
Basically, because it's very real and pure.
Or just you explaining, I didn't have enough money for formula, and then this is how we got it. We got the call. And then from then on, we've just been trying to deliver the best kind of service we can possibly bring. Straight away, I'm part of that journey.
Yeah.
I'm part of something bigger than just turning around saying, turning the sign.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And they get it too. And what I like about it is that, I've seen our staff go from, one of the things in one of these meetings that we had the other day, a young guy that I haven't really had a lot to do with out of our Tauranga office, he kind of stood up and said, I'm so grateful for you guys to employ me during a period of time where the world was against us. So we decided not to mandate the vaccine. Everyone else mandated it, and I thought, well, I'm already short for staff. Two of our larger clients had mandated it. And then probably like 50% of our other clients were coming to us going, are you going to mandate it? Because we're not going to mandate it, and we want to work with companies that don't want to mandate it. And I'm like, well, I think we're going to try and just work through it and do it for everybody, right? So I was never going to force it on anybody.
Well, the funny thing is the whole situation is where it was getting mandated. It's getting mandated for companies that weren't requiring the mandates.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? So, and the companies that had mandated it, 3 months later they changed their minds, but that's all right because they already took their staff.
Yeah,
because they came over to us, and I'm like, come on board, right? These are good people, right?
Well, there's a lot of short-sightedness in what they were doing at the time because they were doing a health and safety policy off the dangers of COVID.
Yeah,
they never did a health and safety policy off the dangers of the vaccine.
No,
and as we're seeing now, quite a lot of people have been injured, whether it's through Bell palsy or myocarditis and stuff through that vaccine. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to get into obviously a COVID chat here.
I see. I've got more stuff off now with the flu than I had with COVID. Although, no, to be honest, actually, once COVID kind of came through our business, it hit us at about 15 to 20 a day. But, on a general year-to-year basis right now, flu's quite a big problem.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It was discussed anytime you lock people away for a long period of time, don't allow them to experience other people, and there's naturally, you're not going to build your immunity.
Yeah.
So
totally.
there's got a reason why I don't get sick very often. I think the last time I ever was 8 years ago, other than getting COVID 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm exposed to so many people. I'm getting a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person. My body's processing it all, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And what happened when we were in the 80s growing up? They're like, oh, you kids, go get some dirt under your fingernails, roll in the mud. You need to build up your immune system.
Yeah.
Now we're like,
yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
Great job for having an open philosophy and not actually going down because that company's doing it, this company's doing it.
Yeah.
I've got to do it too.
Yeah, these are decisions that are really hard to make, right? They're super hard to make because you don't know the right or wrong answer. You just got to kind of follow your heart, right, and go with what you think is right. And if you keep those principles alive in your business, I think you're heading in the right direction. Well,
that's the thing. I've said to all my clients, there's got no right or wrong thing to do. It's only got what's right for you.
Yeah.
You could be like, ask me what my thoughts are and what this philosophy is and this information. It doesn't matter. Just do what's right for you.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's what we felt. And I think that was the greatest decision. And going back to that, the guy stood up in front of everyone and was like, I'm really thankful that you guys gave us that opportunity when no one else would. I'm like, well, that's great.
But you know what that naturally builds?
Yeah. What's that?
Loyalty.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember a story that Scott, he's kind of like a pseudo mentor, not a pseudo mentor. It's definitely a mentor.
Yeah.
And he was saying how he sold his Porsche, he sold his holiday home in one of the recessions. Like he sold a lot of things so he could keep every single one of his staff employed.
Wow. Awesome.
Okay. And after that, he's got the most loyal staff.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it. He just genuinely cares about them. He's like, I'll get the Porsche back. And he did. He got the holiday home back. He did. He's got an even cooler space.
Yeah.
He gets it all back. He's like, it always comes back around, and he's got the exact same philosophy as you. He's just a good dude. He just treats people nicely, and you wouldn't know it. One time he'd be old XR6 Ute.
Yeah.
Roll up to the site, you wouldn't know he's the big boss.
Yeah.
The guys are a little bit running behind on schedule, and he's down there helping them. You wouldn't know he's the big boss if you're a fly on the wall. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's real awesome. And that's kind of like with COVID with us is, we had quite a lot of staff at that point, and we basically put all our reserves into to making sure everyone was topped up and had enough money, right? And that was a big commitment to make as well, which I think has gone a long way too. But it wasn't to get their loyalty; it was just we've got all these people. We've got to try and do the right thing here, because everyone's in the same boat. Like no one really knew. Like for the first week, I'm pretty sure I didn't sleep, because all of a sudden it was like every bit of control that I had was taken away from me, and we weren't allowed to generate income or revenue for the business. Yeah. And everyone's at home, and everyone comes to you like, "What's your fucking advice? What's happening, Logan?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't actually know." So
I get you.
I did these daily newsletters kind of thing to my teams, and sent them to 70, 80 people every day.
Yeah, and do some simple math, people. 70 or 80 people, average wage might be $1,000 a week. You can do the math on that.
Yeah, it's heaps.
You can do the math on that. That's his weekly wage pool, and the government shuts you down.
Yeah.
It's tough. That's a stress. That's a stress that most people will never know in their life.
Yeah. And then you had to, while I was stressing, you had to confine me in my property. It's like, hold up. I need to also see people.
I couldn't have a beer with the boys.
That's like I said previously, the hardest part for the lockdown for me, I love spending time with my family. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
However, another hard part was getting called up every day from clients asking, "Look, I'm desperate." And I'm just simply saying, "Look, I'm not allowed to." Yeah. Not that I don't want to.
I can't come and see you, sorry.
Yeah. So it was definitely a challenging time.
It was, yeah. It was a good learning, a growth opportunity, right, for yourself personally, or myself, I found, because that really tested it kind of, everything got taken out of your control, right? So you go from always trying to, because, as a business owner, you've got to be in control, right? And you've got to have an understanding of everything, and you've got to know a bit of what's going on about everywhere, but it kind of put everyone into a position where no one knew what was going on, or how long it was going to go on for, or what was going to happen next, and you just kind of had to suck it up and, all right, well, we've got a few weeks off, let's just make the most of this family time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Yeah,
but it took me like probably 8 to 10 days to get to that point.
It was the same.
Yeah,
I was like stating all the bits and pieces and this and this and this, and because I've got a deep understanding of immune system and all of this, and I could understand why the first one was put into place, but I still wouldn't have personally done it.
Yes,
and a whole pile of bits and pieces, and you're like, I could go into this big rant, which I don't want this to be about, which I'm not going to do. But it puts
the mics are off.
Well, come the end of it, I was like, "Fuck it, I have to go back to work now." Damn it! Right? So we put like a mattress in the lounge and watched like movies with the kids. I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. Right, all day, all night. The kids stayed up late. We just kind of took a step back in life, and then it was like, "Oh fuck, we got work on Monday,"
which you'd never had. Like you were saying, your kids missed out on that last 5 years, 6 years of you, building the business.
Yeah.
And I see that in heavy transport, right? This is a big part of why I'm, trying to be a succession plan for a lot of these guys in the business. I've got so many transport operators, again, 14-hour-a-day businesses.
Yep.
They come to me and go, "Jason, my son's leaving home next week. I barely know him."
Yeah,
because I've worked 70 hours a week, 60 days a week, 70 hours.
Yeah.
And on the day off, they wash your truck.
Yeah, totally. I'm 100% focused on not being in that position in years to come. Like the way I look at it, if that's the outcome in 10, 15 years' time, then I'm a fucking failure. Yep. Right? And it's everything. And it took me a while to realise this, but because you kind of get addicted to working as well, right? But you have to have that balance, because if you get that disconnected or you lose that, you regret that. I often think about situations like, it's that, again, a bit more cliche, like what what are the things you're going to regret on your deathbed? And then start planning your life around those, making sure that doesn't happen. When you're on your deathbed, the only thing that really matters is your family.
Your memories.
I've got this thing. I've got this extreme situation. Okay, I've got this weird. Some people call it weird, but I'm like, okay, extreme situation. If there was like an apocalypse, okay, and everything was blown up, and we were in like
full kind of
bush,
like
and we had a tarp and our family, and we had a box, and we were warm, and we were all together. Is that all that would matter?
Yep. 100%.
So I've got this thing. So what else? So it's real easy to kind of put that kind of. It's easy in this modern world to kind of focus on the materialistic things because it is technically. It's shown comfort and security, and especially growing up, not with much. It's a way to kind of provide that for your family. But what really matters is you being present and there for your family and your children and your partner. And
And I genuinely believe that the little people in my life, that they don't give a shit about, like, if I buy them a toy, they get over it within a few moments. Or like, you know, as much as you try to buy their attention with money, they just want your time.
Yeah.
That's all that they want. The one thing that you can't buy them is the one thing that they want. And so that's it for me, right?
Yeah, I do this pretty cool thing with my kids. I'll just like, they'll be there and they'll be talking and I'm actually looking at them. Yeah. And then they'll look at me and then they'll be like,
he's looking at me.
Then he's really looking at me. And then they find it get that real awkward space and then they can't help but hug me. It's pretty cool.
That's the connection through their eyes, right?
Yeah.
Often the little like kids will look, as they're talking to you, they're looking down, right? They're not engaging in that contact. And then when you contact, or like say with my kids, if I look them in the eyes as I'm talking, they're kind of like, why are you looking at me?
Yeah, exactly.
But adults are the same. A lot of adults look to the ground.
Yeah.
That's a confidence thing.
Yeah.
You know? This, we're all doing it now, right?
Yeah.
This is what I've enjoyed about the podcast.
Yeah.
Because we've taken distraction out of our life. The phone's not going to buzz, you know, all that thing. It's just three guys here, 3 beers in front of us and a mic. And because we've got the earphones in, we're not hearing the plane fly over our head or any of that stuff. We're just engaged in a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's about that being present within life and in general.
Yeah. We need to, you know, if I could do this at dinner table, all right, guys, we're going to have dinner now. Put your headphones on, the microphone in front of you, let's eat. And but at least you'd have a conversation with your kids and you'd learn about their lives.
Yeah.
If they'd eat their food, I'd do it.
There's so much distraction out there, and it's everywhere. It's plastered all around us. And it takes that being present away, you know, more and more and more.
Yeah.
You know, that's why like our great grandparents were far more present than what we were.
Yeah.
His parents, you know.
When you think about it, daily life was a hell of a lot more simple.
Yes.
Hell of a lot. You need to wash the potatoes so then we can peel them and put them in, put them in the oven.
Get them out of the veggie garden.
Yeah. Very simple. It's quite nice.
It is very nice. That's why I moved out to the country.
Yeah.
Hey, so when there is an apocalypse, I can also kind of hide out there. But I can also grow veggies.
Yeah, it's always key. You know what's up.
Yeah.
So is there anything in this chat and conversation that we haven't covered that you'd like to cover?
I'm not really too sure. I don't think so. I think we've kind of covered a little bit about, we did a good pre-recording example.
Was it recorded though?
Yeah. I hope this one's recorded.
We'll find out. All right. So no, we've appreciated having you on here. Obviously, awesome. you mentioned you're 30 staff short. And that's a big part of your growth. I was going to ask you where your growth is going and what's in store for you, but staff's an issue.
Yeah, it is. We've kind of halted growth at the moment because, you know, we're kind of planning everything around. I'm very much a planner for the worst, hope for the best kind of guy. And I think the economy is not in a very good position right now, and I feel like there's a lot of oblivious people around that feel that we're in a much better position than we are. So we kind of halted our growth as much as we could. Coming into the start of the year, And now we're looking to kind of ramp it back up again and get those numbers up again. So,
and with that though, obviously you're the director of the company, but people
am.
probably don't come to you for employment. So how's the best way if someone is interested in?
Yeah, jump onto our website, www.rstm.nz, and jump onto the careers page and fill out an application form online.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Well, we'd like to thank you very much for your time and
Cheers.
the lovely discoveries and chat. So I've
Thanks,
thoroughly
guys.
enjoyed it. So
That's
thank
awesome.
you very much.
Yeah. No, thanks for inviting me on board.
No worries, and thanks for repeating yourself after I didn't record.
Yeah. Good job.
All right, cheers guys. Thank you.
Thank you.